Good morning. You're watching News for Hearing Impaired. I'm Preeti. With me is Meera. First, the headlines. Lockdown extended across India till 31st of May. Public and religious gatherings prohibited. Educational institutions, malls, restaurants to remain closed. Flights and metro services also to remain suspended. Curfew between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. States get more say in lockdown 4. Interstate movement of passenger vehicles and buses allowed with mutual consent between states. States can impose additional restrictions if required. Cabinet Secretary Rajiv Gauba seeks states' cooperation in running more Shramik special trains for migrant workers. Holds video conference with the Chief Secretaries of States and Union Territories. Railway Board ready to run more special trains if states provide quick clearance. Finance Minister unveils the fifth and last tranche of reforms under Atmanirbhar Bharat package for the boost to ease of doing business with focus on MSMEs. Minimum threshold for insolvency proceedings raised to 1 crore rupees from rupees 1 lakh. More funds for Manrega. Significant improvement in the recovery rate in India as it goes up to 37.5%. Over 34,000 people recover. Active cases stand around 54,000. And Brazil overtakes Italy and Spain as the virus cases grow. Death toll nears 90,000 in the US. But in Europe, many countries including Spain and Italy set to further ease the lockdown as situation improves. First, we'll get you all the latest updates on the lockdown. The lockdown has been extended by 2 more weeks till 31st of May. In an order, the National Disaster Management Authority said that lockdown measures need to be extended in order to contain the spread of COVID-19. With the nationwide lockdown extended till 31st of May, a new set of guidelines has also been issued to be followed during the lockdown. Here we take a look at the following graphics that tell you what is allowed and what is not. These are the activities that remain prohibited. All domestic and international air travel is prohibited. Metro rail services are not allowed. Schools, colleges, educational and training or coaching institutions will remain closed. Hotels, restaurants and other hospitality services will remain shut as well. But restaurants shall be permitted to operate kitchens for home delivery for food items. Cinemas, shopping malls, gymnasia, swimming pools, entertainment parks, theatres, bars, auditoria and assembly halls are prohibited. Sports complexes and stadia will be permitted to open, but spectators will not be allowed. Also, social, political, sports, entertainment, academic, cultural and religious gatherings or functions are prohibited. All religious places or places of worship shall be closed for public, and also religious congregations are strictly prohibited. Up next, we take a look at the activities that are permitted with restrictions. Interstate movement of passenger vehicles and buses with mutual consent of the states or the union territories concerned. Intrastate movement of passenger vehicles and buses. Containment buffer, red, green and orange zones is what we now look at. The delineation of red, green and orange zones will be decided by respective states and the union territories. Within the red and orange zones, district authorities will demarcate containment zones and buffer zones. And now we take a look at the containment zones. In the containment zones, only essential activities shall be allowed. Strict perimeter control to ensure that there is no movement of people in or out of these zones. Intensive contact tracing, house-to-house surveillance and other clinical interventions will be conducted here. In night curfew, the movement of individuals shall remain strictly prohibited between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. Up next is protection of vulnerable persons, that is being flashed on your screens. Cabinet Secretary Rajiv Gauba yesterday held a meeting with states via video conference to discuss the specific issues regarding lockdown 4, under which states have to decide various zones and the activities to be allowed there. The Cabinet Secretary requested states to cooperate in running of more Shramik special trains to facilitate the movement of migrant laborers. The Railway Board Chairman, who was present at the meeting, said that more special trains can be pressed into service if states provide quick clearance. State governments were also requested to make DMs and SPs responsible for the safety and well-being of migrant laborers. Migrant labor found walking have to be escorted to a camp and put on board a Shramik special train. A limited number of activities will remain prohibited throughout the country, but states can decide how to deal with containment zones or the red, orange and green zones. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman yesterday unveiled the fifth and final tranche of economic stimulus package. Reforms were the central theme of Finance Minister's press conference, with focus on 7 sectors. The minister announced an additional 40,000 crore rupees for Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, that is Manrega Act. It would come as a relief to the migrant labor returning home from various parts of the country. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also announced a series of measures for the education sector in general and online education in particular. She said that PM E-Vidya program for multi-mode access to digital and online education will be launched immediately. It will consist of Diksha, a One Nation, One Digital platform facility for school education. There will be one earmarked television channel for all classes from class 1 to class 12. Swam Prabha DTH channels will support and reach out to those who do not have access to internet. There will be extensive use of radio, community radio stations and podcasts. Special e-content will be available soon for visually and hearing impaired children. Top 100 universities will be permitted to automatically start online courses by 30th of May. And Mano Darpan, an initiative for psychological support of the students, teachers and families for mental health and emotional well-being, to be launched soon. Health sector reforms were also on the government's agenda. Public health labs will be set up in every district. Also, law will be amended to prevent attacks on healthcare workers.
Health reforms and initiatives have been put in place. Public expenditure on health will be certainly increased. Investments at the grassroots level will be ramped up for health and wellness centers, both in the rural and urban areas.
Finance Minister also announced that Indian public companies can list their securities directly in foreign jurisdictions. Private companies which list non-convertible debentures on stock exchanges will not be regarded as listed companies, which will enable ease of doing business in the country.
Now companies can list their securities directly in foreign jurisdictions. So this is one big step forward for Indian companies. And then second, listings of non-convertible debentures on stock exchange will not be regarded as those companies as listed companies.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also said that the government has decided to Decriminalize Companies Act violations involving minor technical and procedural defaults. 7 compoundable offences have altogether been dropped and 5 will have to be dealt with under alternative framework.
Decriminalize most of the sections in Companies Act where you have violations which are technical and procedural in nature. So we want to decriminalize all of them. Then compoundable offences where there are, they can now be tried under internal adjudicating mechanism, and this way one, it becomes simpler, it can be sorted out at the local, the local internal adjudicating mechanism route rather than go to the courts. This will help us decongest the courts.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's pledge of total spending of 20 lakh crore rupees or about $265 billion to weather out the fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic under Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan is about 10% of India's GDP in 2019-20 and ranks behind the stimulus provided by Japan, US, Sweden, Australia and Germany. As part of the second phase of Vande Bharat mission, 3 flights from Gulf states to Ernakulam in Kerala landed on Sunday night with stranded Indian nationals. The flights were from Dubai, Abu Dhabi and Bahrain. Air India Express flight from Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Gulf Air from Bahrain arrived in Nedumbassery Airport on Sunday night. The Dubai flight had 179 people, including 2 infants. 181, including an infant, arrived from Abu Dhabi and 127 people arrived from Bahrain. 66 Bahraini nationals were returning home from Ernakulam on the Gulf Air flight on its trip back to Bahrain. In the second phase of the ongoing Samudrasetu mission to repatriate Indians from overseas, Indian Navy ship INS Jalashwa has brought more Indian nationals back home to Kochi in Kerala. As the cyclonic storm Amphan intensified into a very severe cyclonic storm, it is likely to unleash heavy rain and high velocity winds in large swaths of coastal Odisha and West Bengal. The Indian Met Department had issued a yellow alert stating that West Bengal and Bangladesh coasts are likely to be affected by cyclonic storm Amphan. The weather phenomena will cause heavy rainfall and high velocity winds in coastal districts of Odisha, West Bengal and Andaman and Nicobar. According to the Home Ministry, the cyclone will make a landfall in West Bengal on Wednesday. As per Ministry of Health's latest data, total number of confirmed cases in India has reached 90,927. Out of these, 53,946 are active cases. 34,108 people have fully recovered from the viral infection and 2,872 people have lost their lives to the illness. The country's largest car maker, Maruti Suzuki, will resume manufacturing at its Gurugram plant from today. All activities will be carried out strictly in accordance with the government regulations and guidelines. The move follows Union government's decision to allow gradual resumption of economic activity by relaxing lockdown measures in certain pockets identified as green and orange zones. Earlier, Maruti had restarted production operations at Manesar plant on 12th of May. Maruti had to close its factories once the lockdown was put in place to contain the spread of COVID-19 pandemic on 25th of March. Manesar and Gurugram facilities have installed capacity to manufacture 15.5 lakh vehicles per annum. Israel's parliament approved Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's new unity government ending more than a year of political deadlock. But he still faces a trial starting next week for alleged corruption. His decision to share power with former rival, centrist blue and white leader Benny Gantz opens the way for Netanyahu to proceed towards a pledged annexation of the parts of occupied West Bank, land that Palestinians seek for a state. After three inconclusive elections, the conservative Netanyahu will remain Prime Minister for 18 months before handing over to his new partner. Gantz will be Netanyahu's defense minister and alternate Prime Minister, a new position that Netanyahu will hold when Gantz takes the helm. Netanyahu can now push forward its plan to extend Israeli sovereignty to Jewish settlements and the Jordan Valley in the occupied West Bank, the territory Palestinians want for their own independent state. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated his Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu on the formation of his coalition government. In a tweet, Prime Minister Modi said, and I quote him, "Mazel Tov, my friend Netanyahu, for forming your fifth government in Israel. I wish you and Gantz success and look forward to continue working closely with your government to further strengthen India-Israel strategic partnership." Meanwhile, the global COVID-19 death toll has surpassed 3,15,000 mark, while the number of cases from across the world had crossed 47 lakh mark. Now, as per the latest data, the global death toll stood at 3,15,023. The US currently accounted for the highest number of coronavirus deaths in the world at 89,550. Followed by the United Kingdom in the second place with 34,716 fatalities. Other countries with over 20,000 fatalities are Italy, France and Spain. Brazil has overtaken Spain and Italy to become the country with the fourth largest number of confirmed COVID-19 infections in the world. A total of 2,41,080 cases reported in Brazil so far, while the death toll stands at 16,118. Meanwhile, in Italy, shops and restaurants will open from today, providing social distancing is enforced. Alongside the opening of shops, all movement within individual regions will be allowed. However, the inter-regional and foreign travel ban will remain in place until after June 2nd. Mass in churches will also resume from today, but there will be strict social distancing and worshippers must wear face masks. Other faiths will also be allowed to hold religious services. It was the first country in Europe to impose nationwide restrictions when coronavirus cases began to surface in northern regions in February. Spain is set to relax its restrictions outside of Madrid and Barcelona, with groups of up to 10 people free to meet. Outdoor seating in bars and restaurants will be allowed from today, as well as family reunions and meetings between friends, providing no more than 10 people gather. In Madrid and Barcelona, along with parts of Northwest, the majority of restrictions will remain in place, but some small shops will be allowed to reopen. The measures follow consistent drops in the number of daily recorded deaths. The Nepal government has extended its ongoing nationwide lockdown till June 2nd. The decision was taken at a cabinet meeting held in Kathmandu last evening. Earlier in the day, the high-level coordination committee to prevent and control COVID-19 recommended the government to continue the lockdown for 15 days in view of the rising number of COVID-19 cases. Nepal has reported 295 COVID-19 cases till Sunday evening, and the deadly virus has claimed 2 lives so far. Bangladesh on Sunday reported the highest number of single-day COVID-19 infections in the country, with 1,273 new cases being reported in the last 24 hours since Saturday. During the same period, 14 people died due to corona. With this, the total number of people infected with coronavirus has gone up to 22,268, and the death toll has mounted to 328. Meanwhile, Bangladesh Health Minister Zahid Malik inaugurated a temporary hospital on Sunday with capacity of accommodating more than 2,000 patients in Dhaka for treatment of COVID-19 patients. The number of beds in the temporary hospital can be upscaled to 5,000 as per requirement, but initially the hospital will start operations with 600 beds, for which the government has appointed doctors and other nursing staff. In the United Kingdom, despite loosening of lockdown measures, travelling on buses and trains is still not permitted, keeping in mind the norm of social distancing. The British government has announced $2.42 billion funding package for active travel such as cycling and walking, with $250 million available immediately for local authorities to make changes to their roads. Prime Minister Boris Johnson described it as an opportunity for a golden age for cycling. Many activists were seen cycling around London in a campaign to encourage people to swap their cars for bikes in Britain. The United Kingdom presently has a total of more than 2,44,995 confirmed cases of the pandemic, with over 34,700 deaths. In Egypt, curfew will be extended for 4 more hours during the Eid holidays. Public transport will also be halted from May 24th for 6 days to curb the spread of COVID-19. However, after Eid, the curfew will last from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. as it did before Ramadan. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouly announced that shops, restaurants, parks and beaches will be closed for the extended holiday, and restrictions on citizens' movements will remain in place for at least 2 weeks afterwards. However, he indicated that there could be gradual reopening of some activities from mid-June. Egypt has reported more than 12,000 cases of COVID-19, including 630 deaths. The number of cases reported daily has been on the rise as the government slightly eased a night curfew and other restricting measures. The number of cases rose by 491 on Saturday. COVID-19 pandemic is going to have deep financial consequences. The Emirates Group is set to cut about 30,000 jobs to reduce costs amid the health emergency, and this will bring down its number of employees by about 30%. The company is also considering speeding up the planned retirement of its A380 fleet. An Emirates spokeswoman said that no public announcement has been made yet by the company regarding redundancies at the airline, but that the company is conducting a review of costs and resourcing against business projections. The state-owned airline, which suspended regular passenger flights in March due to the virus outbreak that has shattered global travel demand, had said that a recovery in travel was at least 18 months away. It reported a 21% rise in profit for its financial year ending March 31st. However, the pandemic had hit its 4th quarter performance. The Bundesliga returned this weekend after a 2-month hiatus due to coronavirus, but the league's strict hygiene guidelines mean matches will be played behind locked doors. Bayern Munich beat Union Berlin 2-0 in a league match played while returning to Bundesliga. That's it in this edition of the News Sisa. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.